Welcome to the first Phoenix Scale Publications in the Box video. In this series we'll be looking at different types of models that we cover in our two magazines, Phoenix Scale Modeler and Phoenix Aviation Modeler. For our first video we have the long anticipated all new tooling of the SR-71 Blackbird in 1/48 scale by Revell. On opening the box I was immediately struck by how well protected the parts are. The two fuselage halves seen here are in their own cardboard container on top of the smaller parts, which are all individually bagged and wrapped. One thing to note is how substantial the sprue runners are. The parts are actually adjoining the parts to the excess runners. Now in some cases this will not be an issue as they are on mating surfaces so easily removed, but those at the nose section run into the chine and will have to be carefully removed. I would suggest cutting well away from the model and then once it is removed from the runner carefully paring and sanding back so as not to damage the very thin mating surface. Runner B of the plastic parts contains the outer wings and the engine bodies. Detail is a mix of both fine engraved lines and recessed and raised detail. It is really hard to pick this out because the detail is just so fine, but I'm going to try my best to zoom in and give you an example. There you go. So when you're looking at plastic from normal viewing distance, the panel lines aren't really that obvious. So you are going to need a wash or something to pick them out, as otherwise you'll just have one large black slab of plastic. And here we have sprue D. Sprue D is quite large. What I particularly noticed is this large gap here. This does point to a future variant coming, and most logical would be a two-seat, except realistically the two-seat only needs a new upper fuselage and an extra cockpit. So could this be a YF-12? Because that area is certainly a large area that's been removed. Most of the parts on here are to do with the engine internals, and the large object at the top of the screen, that part there, is actually the large central keel that will run down the model, which will certainly make it far more substantial. This is one of the very few parts where I actually did find some sink marks or rejector pin marks on areas that will be visible on the completed model. Mostly this kit has been very well designed, so any pin marks just aren't visible. And here is the ejector pin marks I'm talking about. Now, to be fair to Revell, looking at the plans, I think these will not be visible once the model is assembled. I will have to come back to you on it, but it's such a tiny area that you will be able to see through because the injector cone will be in front of this part. So you might not have to fill it, but I just thought I'll bring it to your attention just in case you may want to.
Here we have sprue F. This is mostly concerned with the construction of the rear of the jet exhaust and the undercarriage. Also includes the pitot tube. This is quite long and thin, and I would really recommend replacing it with the example from Master Models of Poland, which is in etched brass and resin and will be a lot stronger, and also costs under £4.
On this runner you also have one of the very few areas where sink marks are visible, as can be seen in this illustration. These are very small, but they do go through some engraved detail. Now I'm going to be trying using some microfiller on this airbrushed on, and hopefully that will sort the issue out. If not, one for the resin boys.
Here we have sprue E. This again provides some undercarriage parts and also the parts for the strengthening spine that we looked at earlier. I have assembled these and I will be showing them a little bit later in the video. Here we have a look at the cockpit parts. Detail is very good for injection moulded plastic and certainly picks out well with a wash. Again, I have started assembly. I will show you this a little bit later. One thing to note on the noses that are supplied in this kit have a little cutout at the front, which you can see here. That is part of an ECM system that was installed from 1985 onwards. So if you're doing a Vietnam era Blackbird, you will have to fill these. The clear parts supply the production canopy, which isn't always, it's got a slight peak at the front, which is sometimes missed on models in all scales. With this kit, the optical clarity is first rate, which is quite important because you're only going to be able to view the cockpit detail through the very small windows, so having a distortion free canopy is a big plus. Not many kits nowadays give you a stand, and Revell do, and it enables you to display the model posed as if in flight. But you can see there are some extra slots on there, and these are for the engine display stand. If you choose to fit them, you can display the two engines, or one engine, or no engine. You just need to use a little bit of filler to fill the excess holes you are not planning on using. I will point out though that the one disappointment on this kit is that the ejection seats do not supply pilots. So that is something we're going to have to wait again for the aftermarket to sort out. Which is a bit of a shame because it would look really quite cool having this model posed in flight, but not without the pilots. The instructions are in Revell's clear and concise style, very easy to follow. I have already identified a few misnumberings of parts, which I will come to when we actually get to build this kit for the magazine. So be careful as you go, test fit, most of them are pretty obvious. The undercarriage is designed to be installed very early on in construction, and I do wonder if it was actually originally designed to be given the choice of either posing it closed or retracted, because certainly it is actually possible to make this bit work. Again, I will cover that more in the magazine article. Unsurprisingly, for production Blackbirds there is only one colour, and it is black, or rather dark grey, or blue-black, depending on who you want to believe. Have a look at reference photographs, you'll see what I mean. There is quite a lot of variation on colours. They do come out of the factory in a very black finish, but this soon does weather down due to the high level and speeds this type flies at. Decals are very nicely printed in Italy. The only query I've got is the shades of red, which is used in quite a large number of areas on this model. It is a bit too bright, a bit too vibrant. Again, there are aftermarket decals coming from Caracal, and I would certainly be, if you are an accuracy person, want to be replacing these with an aftermarket alternative. It is a bit of a shame because other than that, the decal sheets are beautifully printed. It comes with markings for a number of different options. Mostly tail art are the big changes, but one of them has got a large white cross painted on the underside, which is quite attractive, especially on the model if you pose it with the undercarriage up. Here we have the assembled undercarriage bay. This hasn't had any washes or any type of weathering yet, which it will receive. But what I can show you is if you look at the upper edge, you can see the lower part of the undercarriage leg has been attached. I've left the main part off at this stage. Unfortunately, Revell have moulded this as two separate pieces, which does add an area of possible weakness into the model, something we will have to look at. But if we can position down, you can see that you can actually fold the undercarriage leg down into the bay, which might help prevent damage during construction. Okay, I did promise you some looks of my model in progress. Now I actually have two SR-71 Blackbirds and a third on order. Me bad. But so this one is a little bit further along. I've been working on this for about 3 days at the time of filming, and it is going together very rapidly, I will say. Now I'm quite proud of the cockpits. These took me about an hour and a half to paint up and finish. These are all done with hand painted. I haven't used any of the decals, which are very good as well. Certainly it's more than adequate for a closed cockpit. There are a few minor details missing, which I'm sure the resin manufacturers will have covered very shortly. Now I'm very fortunate. I have examples of the Afterburner SR-71 decal sheets that have been out of production for nearly 10 years. These do show the very accurate colour of the red walkways. You see it's a lot darker compared to the Revell sheet on the blue background at the upper part of the photograph. As I said, this is probably the only negative that is a big need for aftermarket. I'm not sure if these sheets will ever be reissued. They are certainly recommended, but Caracal decals have got 2 new products in production which should be with us within the next few months. So there we have it. Revell's big, beautiful Blackbird. Certainly this is one of my favourite releases of the last year, and as I've got 5 test doors examples up in my loft,
I'm quite pleased I don't have to build those now, and they will be sacrificing parts to produce a camera nose and maybe a YF12 if that doesn't appear from Revell in next year's release announcements. I really like this model. It fits together beautifully. There are a few minor little quibbles on it, but nothing that most modelers can't sort out quite easily. The only recommended option will be a replacement decal sheet, especially considering the large amount of red walkways there are, if you want to be 100% accurate. I would also query the level 5 rating that Revell have given this kit. Yes, it is large. Yes, its construction is complicated in some areas, especially the engines if you wish to display those. And by and large, it doesn't deserve a level 5 rating. This is a level 3 kit. The fit is superb. The detail is superb. A few minor quibbles, but other than that, really, this is a really good kit. And I think it will sell like hotcakes. Will we get a YF12 or even an A12 Cygnus? I do not know, but I really hope so. I have room for quite a few of these on my shelf. Thank you to my wallet for supplying the review sample. A full build will appear in a future issue of Phoenix Scale Aviation Modeler.